Welcome back to Tuesday Morning Quarterback with your host, Nathaniel Smith. How's everybody doing? This is Nathaniel Smith coming to you live from the studio in LA. Welcome to Tuesday Morning Quarterback. Today we got a full slate of NFL topics to cover, from the Pro Bowl to Super Bowl 50 to the entire preview for next season, looking ahead to what teams might do. Now, kicking things off right away, we have the Pro Bowl to look forward to this Sunday. No real football, the next best thing. You know, the Pro Bowl the past few years has really gone downhill. I feel, and I wonder how the listeners feel, I almost feel as if the Pro Bowl shouldn't be played. None of the players try. Everyone's trying to avoid injury. And as a fan, it's kind of boring to watch. You don't get the same excitement of a true NFL game when you're watching the Pro Bowl. It's a bunch of guys around, I get it, everyone's having fun, tossing the ball around, videotaping with the GoPro, everyone gets their new bucket hat and whatnot. But I just wonder how much the Pro Bowl really helps the NFL. I wonder if it's almost better off as, just an accolade or an award. I don't know that we should actually play a game because honestly, the ratings are down. Not a lot of people really watch the Pro Bowl, and so you wonder if they're really getting their money's worth. However, you do look at it from another perspective. You don't want to take away that from a player, that if you make the Pro Bowl, you're guaranteed the trip to Hawaii, or most of the time it's played in Hawaii, but it's been a couple other stadiums in the past. But, it's a big event. All the players get together, joke around, have fun, practice in shorts and whatnot, and just gather out for a good time. And that's what the NFL is all about. But as I said before, no one tries in the actual game. It's always a high-scoring contest. And there's no defense played. It's just a bunch of guys, chucking the pigskin with a half-assed pass rush. No blitzes dialed up. It's kind of some boring football to watch, to be honest. However, one thing we can look forward to is Team Irvin versus Team Rice. They did a little shakeup this year. They've done this the past couple years where they actually hold a draft. They take all the Pro Bowl selections and they hold a draft, and then they have two Hall of Fame players, in this instance, Michael Irvin and Jerry Rice, as respective coaches, and they draft their own rosters. When you take a look at the draft of this 2016 Pro Bowl, you have to be happy with how it came out. I feel like the teams are pretty even. Team Irvin and Team Rice both did a good job. Obviously all these guys are incredible at what they do. But, there are some interesting picks on here, however, though. Looking ahead, Team Irvin, his two captains are running back Devontae Freeman of the Atlanta Falcons and defensive tackle Geno Atkins from the Cincinnati Bengals. His first overall pick was Russell Wilson, followed by Julio Jones, Richard Sherman, Ezekiel Ansah, and Michael Bennett to round out the top five. We look over to Team Rice, and his captains are wide receiver Odell Beckham from the New York Giants and defensive tackle Aaron Donald of the Rams. And see, this is where it gets interesting for me. His first quarterback off the board, his first overall pick was Eli Manning. And then at number 4, he comes in again with another quarterback and gets Derek Carr. What's interesting is Team Rice took 3 Raiders in the top 5 picks of this draft. Khalil Mack went at number 2, Derek Carr at 4, and Amari Cooper at 5. Now let's look ahead to the big game. Super Bowl 50. History between the Denver Broncos and the Carolina Panthers. Now, there are a multitude of different storylines you can look at when you look at this game. I think the biggest one to me is, will the Sheriff, Peyton Manning, ride into the sunset with a Super Bowl ring on his finger? He's already got one. Will he get another? And as much as I want Peyton to get another, I just don't see it happening. I really don't. I think this Panthers team, this Panthers defense, this Panthers offense, this Panthers special teams, all 3 phases of the game, I just think they're too damn good. We look at some numbers here. The Denver Broncos are no joke, all right? Their defense is playing at a historically high level, all right? They are the first defense In the regular season, they were the first defense in overall in yards per game allowed. They were also first overall in passing yards allowed with under 200. They averaged allowing 199 passing yards a game. In today's NFL, that is ridiculous. I mean, with teams airing the ball out on an average of probably 30 to 40 times a game, and you hold a league average of 199 passing yards per game, that's ridiculous. Not to mention, they were third overall in rushing yards allowed with only 83.6. I mean, granted, some teams don't run the ball like they used to, but still, averaging under 100 yards rushing a game as a defense is phenomenal. Now, we look at the other side of the ball, the Carolina Panthers. Despite what some may think and how it looked during the regular season for the Panthers offense, they weren't as good as you think they were. They actually didn't crack the top 10 in total offense, according to NFL.com statistics. They were the number 11 total offense for the regular season. But the postseason has been a different story. This offense has absolutely dominated the entire postseason so far. They have led the league with an average of 385 yards per game. That is ridiculous. With an average of, meaning that they often top 385 yards a game. But I think what the most impressive statistic you see here is they are first in rushing in the postseason with 148 rushing yards per game. And it's a known staple about football at any level. If you can run the ball at a high level, you will succeed. It is plain and simple as that. You control the clock. You get the defense on their heels. You can control the line of scrimmage. You set the tempo of the ball game. If you can successfully run the ball, it opens up the door to your offense on every single level. The play action pass works. The defense has to crowd the box. You can go over the top. Cam Newton's more of a threat. Is he going to keep the ball, or is he going to hand it off to Jonathan Stewart with that lethal read option that people said would only work in college? But here we are talking about the Super Bowl with a team that consistently runs the read option at a very high level. And so I think this leads to another point of the evolution of the NFL. I mean, the game has changed, but really has it? The basic principles of succeeding playing football will remain the same whether you're 8 years old or 38. Whether we're talking about youth football or the NFL, the principles to win ball games will never change. Despite all these teams throwing it around for however many yards and all these pass-happy offenses, we look who's in the Super Bowl. Two teams that run the ball very well. The Panthers run the ball insanely well this postseason. I mean, Jonathan Stewart is having one of the best years of his career. Cam Newton is most likely the MVP, running and throwing the ball. He's been incredible. And you just look at it, and these teams have survived throughout the playoffs by effectively running the ball. I mean, running the ball just opens up your offense so much. It's ridiculous. The defense has to start sending a blitz. You audible out of the run, you throw it down the field, and they don't have a lot of people in coverage. And the Broncos rely a lot on man-to-man coverage, and why not? They should. They have two of the best corners in the league on one team. Aqib Talib and Chris Harris Jr. are outstanding football players. Both former Pro Bowlers. They are top-notch corners that will really test these Carolina receivers this week. And what people don't realize, I think one of the most impressive things about this run is for the Panthers, is they're doing all of this without their number one receiver, Kelvin Benjamin. Drafted out of Florida State last year, Kelvin Benjamin had a great rookie season. He was in the Rookie of the Year conversation. And he tore his ACL in the preseason. So they've had to rely on guys like Ted Ginn Jr. and Devin Funchess. I mean, Devin Funchess is showing some promise, but Ted Ginn Jr. is not a good football player. He's a punt returner basically playing receiver. This guy has some of the worst hands in the league. He has a 50% drop rate. That's not good. You'd get cut from any NFL team with that, but the Panthers have to work with what they've got, and that just makes it all that more impressive. I'm here with fellow Cronkite student Jordan D'Souza, looking to get a little insight, some more about the Super Bowl. So Jordan, my first question for you. How impressive is it that in their first seasons, respectively, Gary Kubiak and Wade Phillips have led the Broncos to Super Bowl 50?
I think it's definitely very impressive. I mean, just to see what both of those guys have did on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, obviously they have the personnel, but this is one of the most physically imposing defenses we'll ever see, really. And I just think it's really impressive to see like what kind of numbers their defense has put up this year with their lack of offensive firepower, which is unusual for the Broncos. So.
Agreed. It is rather impressive in the first season for both Kubiak and Wade Phillips. Moving on, we all know Cam Newton has a large personality, to put it lightly. I was just curious about your thoughts on it and if it's good for the NFL.
I think it's great for the NFL. I think Cam Newton is one of the only quarterbacks in the NFL to openly show his love for the game. And I just think he has fun playing the game. He's one of the most dynamic quarterbacks we've really had at the position. I mean, he runs, he throws, he does everything, really, for them on the offensive side of the ball.
Okay. And finally, I would like a score prediction and just a little something about what you think will happen during the Super Bowl.
I think it's going to end up being a 31-14 victory for the Panthers. I think it'll be close towards the end, but in my opinion, I just think the Broncos' offense is an accident waiting to happen, and the Panthers have shown that they can capitalize off of mistakes made by the other team throughout the year.
Well, we shall see. Thank you for your time, Mr. D'Souza.
Thank you.
I'm with the newest member of the Bottom of the Six radio crew, Blaze Radio, Mr. Joseph Kahlo. Joe, how are you?
Pretty good. How about yourself, Nate?
Good, good. Switching gears here, we've talked a lot about the Super Bowl, but let's look ahead to next season for the 2016 preview. Could you give me two teams that you think could take the next step next year into contention?
I think you got to look at a team like the Oakland Raiders. They got a lot of playmakers. They got a young quarterback in Derek Carr. He's got a lot of chemistry with wide receivers such as Amari Cooper and Crabtree. They're scary on offense, and they got players on defense like Khalil Mack. So I'd say look for the Raiders to do something. Besides them, I think you got to also stay right here in Arizona. Look at the Cardinals. Even though they did get blown out by the Panthers, they're one step away from making the Super Bowl and being one of those elite teams in the league. So look at the Raiders and Cardinals next year, perhaps to take the next step.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the Raiders have a pretty nice young core that they're working with, a talent. Mm-hmm. And as far as the Cardinals go, I think Carson Palmer can hopefully learn from the disaster he was this postseason, and getting Tyrann Mathieu back will obviously help.
No doubt, no doubt.
Looking ahead, also, our two favorite teams, the Cowboys and the Saints, struggled mightily this year. What is an understatement? The Cowboys had 4 wins. Saints, would they go 7?
7-9.
7-9. So looking ahead for those two teams, let's start with the Saints. What do you think? What's the biggest thing they have to work on?
Defense. They had the worst defense in the NFL. Shattered a record for most passing touchdowns given up in a season. Yeah. So I think you got to look right there. The good news is they were so bad they can't get much worse on defense. So as long as they improve a little bit on defense, and Drew Brees is back, and there's no telling how many years left on his career, so they can improve defense. Hopefully, with the leadership of Brees, they can win a lot more games this year.
Just real quick, how much of the blame lies on Rob Ryan of what the defense did?
Man, I think a lot. You talk about a guy, I don't understand how he kept a job in the league for so many years. He played with the Cowboys. I know you painfully know all about Rob Ryan. I mean, he's never been successful anywhere he goes, but he keeps getting jobs. So maybe he's one heck of an interviewer. But getting a new defensive coordinator in there, I think the Saints can improve.
Sounds good. And for the Cowboys, with Romo coming back, but no one knows how many years he has left. My guess is 1 to 2 good years, maybe. They do have a pretty young core overall, though. Do you think they can finally take the next step and finally make a deep playoff run?
I mean, the Cowboys, just a year ago, they're 12-4, and they won a playoff game, and they're a controversial call away from beating Green Bay and going to the NFC title game. So They still have playmakers on their team. They still got guys like Dez Bryant. They still got a great quarterback in Tony Romo. Mm-hmm. So the pieces are there. Now, as far as them coming together in chemistry and improving on a 4-12 season, I think they can improve. Now, whether it's making the playoff, whether an improvement is 8-8, or whether an improvement's going 12-4 again and making the playoffs, I don't know. Yeah. But the main thing is, if they can keep Romo healthy, they got a quarterback, and you can do a lot with that in the league.
Very true. We'll see what happens in Jerry World next year. And our last talking point here, for next season, I would like you to give me 2 teams that did not make the playoffs this year
Okay.
that you think can make a run next year.
That can make a run next year. I think the Colts. Now maybe that's not too bold of a prediction because they were close
Okay.
to making the playoffs. But I really think the Colts. I mean, I'm talking about a team that didn't make the playoffs. They could go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
because they got Andrew Luck. They got playmakers on that team. The Colts are extremely talented. I'd say look for them to possibly make a move. As far as if we're just since we're saying bold and we're be as bold as possible.
Yeah, why not?
Look, staying in the AFC South. Look at the Jacksonville Jaguars.
You know, I like that pick. I was going to say something if you did.
I mean, they're a 5-12 or 5-11 football team, but I mean,
They got some firepower.
and it's young, a
Yeah.
very young team. So I think they're only going to improve on that on top of 5-11 record. So who knows? Perhaps the Jags could make a push.
We shall see. Thank you for your time.
No problem. Thanks for having me, Nate.
And with that, folks, that'll be all. We'll see you next week on Tuesday Morning Quarterback with me, your host, Nathaniel Smith.